What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. We are getting ready for the Gators, so we had to go behind enemy lines, bring in an expert on Florida Gator football, Eric Esteban. We will dig deep into offense, defense, intangibles, everything you want to know about that matchup. First, I want to talk about some folks that always dig deep into your case. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. All right. We are here with the Vice President of Media Relations for Fox Sports, a veteran of Scout UF, the Alligator for the University of Florida, Miami Herald, ESPN.com, the Palm Beach Post, 10 years at Fox Sports Florida Valley, including some TV appearances as well. He was the face when you're watching a Marlins game popping up on every single commercial. He speaks to the Florida Journalism School of what it takes to get to the top. He is the commissioner of League Machuchando and the one-time champion. And he's been my source for the Florida Gators for 25 years. Tenacious E, Eric Esteban. How you doing?
Wow. What an intro, D-Money. Thank you for that. It is an honor to be here in the Tower Studios that CanesInSight D-Money built. I love it. You know, I never did make it to the Luca Gold South Beach Studios. So to make it to this one, it is an honor. You know, we're coming up at a right time. Like you said, I'm very excited to be with you. We're just a few days away coming up on the UF game.
Yeah, usually I would take the Beluga Studios to your house for the fantasy draft. That was this time of year reminds me of the fantasy draft before my son was born. I enjoyed a little too much the event. Passed out, stayed at your house, had to walk to my house the next day. Almost was kicked out of my home, and then my child was born the following day, and everything was good. My wife forgot about my behavior. The kid was born. I no longer drink alcohol, but I was about like 1 day away from having to live in your house for the rest of my life.
I love that that's the reason for the sobriety. I mean, look, you and I, many a signing day, many a draft day, many a fantasy football draft. It's one of our favorite pastimes, right? I mean, we have cornered the market on hope. Both for the UF-UM side, and usually that comes drowned in a little brown liquor, a little tequila, whatever it may be. So from signing days in Gainesville that you and I have had back in our dorms where you would show up at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. for the faxes rolling in. I don't know if faxes still roll in, but for that and all the way through now where we still throw it down on the regular for these events. So I love it. I live it. I breathe it. I love what you guys are doing here, despite me being a UF fan. Like I said, as much as I'll be rooting for the orange and blue in a week, I love to see you guys win too. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, no, don't like to see you guys win. Like to see you win personally.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get you there. And just for those confused, I did attend the University of Florida. They gave me a pretty lucrative NIL package. But you can attest, having been there, that the hatred for Florida has always run pretty deep.
Oh, it's always run deep. I mean, and you live just a stone's throw from Ben Hill Griffin and in the dorms there. Sorry, apartments with our best of friends, but you were always tried and true.
You were winning at that time, too.
We were winning. The times were good, man. It was a good time to be a Gator. It's always great to be a Gator, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here coming up, right?
Yeah, I remember I would be watching Daniel Stiegel highlights, this two-star quarterback we picked up 2 days before signing day. And then I go to your guys' place and you're watching the Percy Harvins or you try to get CJ Spiller.
Oh yeah. Those were the days. I mean, I would love waking up when recruiting was good like that. Back when the Percy Harvin, those would roll in. I mean, that was what it was all about. Signing day isn't the same anymore. I don't got to tell you guys that. But we still like to make a little fun around it where we can. So like I said, we are merchants of hope across these signing days and these events. And we're almost here. Lions season is about to culminate, right? It's almost over. And now we're entering wrinkle season. Thursday this week, UF puts in their install for Miami. I don't know why they're waiting until Thursday. They've had some time, but fall camp is over and we're getting to that X's and O's. Let's go.
Let's do it. So yeah, the lie season's over now. It's truth-telling season.
I'm going to squeeze a few more lies in here. I got to do it.
Well, before we get to this, explain this to me. Pete posted a video. We had Mike Ryan on, by the way. Wednesday, we're going live again with Mike every Wednesday.
Nice.
And then following Wednesday, we got Hurricane, 5-hour marathon, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. to get ready for the season. So these Wednesdays are going to be humming. But last Wednesday, Pete posted a video of the Gators doing D-line drills in front of a drain.
I know the video you're talking about.
And then they try to tell me that it was AI. Pete, jump in here. was that video that you pulled of the Gators practicing in a drain AI? Because they try to tell us that was
I mean,
AI.
there were 10 different videos from our boy Nick Marcinko on Twitter here. I'm gonna try to pull it up again, but I mean, this would have to be an elaborate plot if it was AI.
He's one of your guys, right, Marcinko?
He is. I saw one of the videos you guys are talking about. I saw the video you're talking about specifically. I did enjoy a good laugh at it. I can't speak to the drain. I love the follow through, both from the coach and the D tackle on that form. So it's for real. Move over just a little bit, right? We got acres of practice fields in Gainesville. So, I mean, they got to move it over to the left. But I definitely had a good laugh at that. That was pretty good.
I'm trying to find the exact video, but this is, I just showed the actual drain that we were
so
referencing.
Not AI.
I can't see this grainy, pixelated drain you guys are talking about.
They better come in the comments saying that it was AI. We made some AI of a drain to make the Gators look like we could even think of such a stupid concept.
I love it. We must really be getting close to game day if we're talking drains, talk.
Let's talk an offense that some would say is going down the drain, but some would say is on the way up.
Okay.
Probably the strength of the team last year, let's say. Certainly, right? I mean, the offense.
For the Gators?
Yeah.
I mean, no question when you position it against the other groups. The defense just sagged as the year went on, just multiple issues there, cost the Gators a few games. And special teams, well, I can't wait to talk about that, or maybe less. But yeah, offense was a strong point of the year, and it started with Graham Mertz, right? He's entering his 6th year as a super QB, and he pretty much played risk-free football. And that's what you want to see as a Florida fan in the SEC with that schedule last year in that season and with the schedule this year. And given some of the challenges that they've had with the O-line and other position groups, it kind of flowed through there. So the offense was definitely the strong suit.
Philosophically, you mentioned risk-free football. Is that a function of how Graham Mertz likes to play? Is that what Napier wants to do? Like, what is Napier's philosophy on offense?
Yeah, it's both. I think that just Graham, again, being a first year in the system last year, you want to play a little risk-free football. They wanted to run the ball and get ahead when they had an Etienne and Montrell 1-2. So I think that's kind of where they've always sided. They want to run the ball. But again, it's the SEC. Last year, you get behind in a bunch of games. You kind of have to unleash a little bit of the talent, some of the improvements that you don't have at the receiver position, dearth of talent at the tight end position as well. So I was pretty happy last year with Graham and what he put up as a quarterback. Again, in first year in the system, 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, on a team that, again, struggled, those are good numbers, And
this is a guy that was I remember I liked him in high school as a 5-star going to Wisconsin. Didn't work out at Wisconsin, had a good season last year for the Gators. I've seen his name in some NFL talk, maybe like a day 3 kind of guy. What does he bring to the table from a skill set standpoint?
Yeah, I think he's going to be looking to find that open guy. Like I said, risk-free is a move for him. Last night, Billy Napier's press conference, he talked about explosives. That's one thing that they're looking for right now in offense is where are they getting those explosive play froms? Because they weren't really there last year when they needed them. They found them here and there, a big catch where they needed it, but you need to put up points and you need to be explosive. So that's kind of been a big thing that they've been looking for out of Graham and out of the receivers and out of the skill set that they have there. I think he's a clear-cut leader, and I think that he's going to be the one that kind of drives away, especially week 1.
In terms of his arm strength and just his ability to make explosive plays, what are we talking about just from his ability?
Sure. There's a little bit of athleticism there. I mean, you send him out, he's going to scramble out the pocket. He'll do it. He's not going to be trucking folks or anything like that. But there is a little bit of athleticism. If you're able to get him out the pocket, he can scramble for a bit. But I think really he's just one of those solid quarterbacks who's going to find what's in front of him. The Gators last year, didn't have a lot of success in separating receivers versus those SEC cornerbacks. And you saw the stats, the only 3 picks, he did what he had to do to keep the ball moving. So I was, again, pretty impressed with his skill set. I'm more excited about it this year. There's some improvements in the receiver room, supposedly over fall camp. And again, there's been some additions there. And a lot of it is going to go through the O-line, which I'm sure we're going to talk about here. One of the main things about Graham and his progression is last year he was sacked 39 times. How good of a quarterback can you be if you're being sacked 39 times? How much time do you have to throw the ball and hit those explosive plays if you're getting sacked 39 times?
Is he someone that looks for the explosive play? I mean, he's safety first, right? But is he someone that will go after the explosive play as there, or is there a push to make him more aggressive in the pocket?
If it's there, I just don't think it was there last year at a big enough clip where he needed to hit it. I think last year you look at the team, Eugene, Trey Wilson, he's a bona fide playmaker. That is someone, but again, they were featuring him short intermediate because they needed him to move the chains. Anytime he touched the ball, you're getting 8-9 yards out of him. So I think that they want to see that explosion. But again, when you don't have that time and you don't have that separation downfield, how explosive can you truly be? Those are some of the things that we're really hoping to see, change this year for Graham.
Sticking on Mertz, because he's such a key part of this game. Miami expects to get pressure. Obviously, that's going to be a key to parts of the game is keeping Miami getting pressure. How does he do under pressure? He got sacked a lot. Is he somebody that is seeing ghost a little bit, or is he someone that it's really just a function of the O-line and he does his best?
Yeah, I don't think he's a ghost seer. I think, again, having so many snaps under his belt, the experience at Wisconsin, playing in the SEC last year, putting up numbers, scoring touchdowns in big games. I mean, playing against top tier talent. I don't think it's a ghost thing but again, if you're getting to him with a lot of heat, and I'm sure there's a point where the chin starts dropping a little bit down, as happens with any quarterback. So that's really where it's at with him. He's someone I think that will drive the ball downfield. If there's guys who are getting open, and even in the face of pressure, he's going to get there, I think.
Now, one thing with the Gators, historically, it seems there's always that backup quarterback situation. Obviously, Tebow and Chris Leak.
Yep.
That was a famous one. Tebow then being really a big key part of their championship run was it 2007?
Yep.
In 2007.
Even 2007. Yep.
And then you had the situation with Cam Newton, John Brantley, who's the backup quarterback there. John Brantley ends up getting the nod.
Yeah, one of the greatest inflection points in Florida history, that laptop flying through that window, Cam Newton.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't understand why he wasn't starting already or right into number 2 already. I wonder if there was some good old boy stuff going on there, but we won't get into history. Sounds like this backup quarterback is going to play this year. What's the buzz on the player and the role this season?
Yeah, I mean, look, DJ Lagway, they love what they're seeing out of him in his first fall camp. 240 pounds, he can move, he can get the ball, to where it needs to be. They're honestly very high on him. He is going to play this year. There will be, there's talks about him having a package. I don't know if it's going to be week 1. I think all Gator fans are excited to see what a potential rotation or a package for him may look like. But for now, it's just reps. They're getting as many reps for him in practice as they can, as you can imagine for any true freshman QB. Again, I don't know if we're going to see him out there week 1 in any capacity. Again, just given that it's the first game, it's at home, and given the stakes of the game. But he is going to, like, they do want to find a way for him to get some snaps and be in that traditional sprinkle role where you're adding a new wrinkle that the defense has to prepare for, whether it's him scrambling or just, again, some gadget plays, whatever it may be. I think Florida wants to get him in there.
How's his running ability? Because P and I watched Lagway in the spring game. I thought he threw it well and looked good. Like, is he I know he's not only a runner.
No.
But if he's put in a role where he has to run, thinking against the Tebow in his year, how does his running ability stack up?
I don't think that they want to put him in a position like that just yet. I mean, who knows? A year in the system, a few months, gets a few games under his belt. Maybe they find a little more confidence there for him to take on a, RPO or an option or something like that. But I don't think they're just going to go throwing him out there, into the defensive line or into linebackers, especially as a true freshman. I hope not. I mean, everyone knows what Florida's schedule looks like. That's big boy football, and DJ has come a long way. I think he's gotten on campus from all reports. They love what they're seeing out of him. And again, they just want to get him reps right now, and then he'll get that real game experience. But I don't know if you're going to see him Saturday.
In terms of running game, Montreal Johnson obviously is the name that we hear about. We saw him last year with Etienne now at Georgia. Injury concerns there. What's the latest you're hearing on his status, and then the rest of the room? Who are we looking at?
Yeah, they're going to clarify Montreal's availability during game week next week. Billy said he's going to talk a little bit more about that. He's running right now, but it does appear, the reports are saying that he's not going to be ready for week 1. There was a lot of talk in Billy's press conference yesterday about Trayvon Webb, who's the next guy up. He's someone who has game experience. Billy used the quote best protector on him. But again, he is someone who's still very green, talking about a few games here and there last year in that third back role behind Montreal and Etienne. So he's someone who would be catapulted all of a sudden into that starting running back role. And then behind him, you have Jaden Ball, who is someone I think a lot of people are excited about. 6'1", 237 running back out of Atlanta, Georgia. You flip him from Arkansas on signing day. He's flashed at scrimmage. I mean, this is the kind of guy you get in your Road to Glory Dynasty on PlayStation. And you just love having that power back. So he's someone who's going to be these flashing scrimmages. If Montreal's indeed out week 1, you're likely going to see Trayvon Webb and Jaden Bob with the 1-2. Bob being a little bit more of a power back, with some guys potentially others sprinkled in there in a third down setting. But more to come next week. We'll keep an eye on those injury reports from Napier, but it doesn't look like Montreal's going to be ready for week 1.
But I know our buddy Ruben was talking him up as well. The explosiveness in that room. You lose at the end, who's your fastest back, or seemed like your fastest back last year.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the most dynamic of those guys? You can include Johnson as well in terms of their ability to make big plays in the running game.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that Florida fans are going to want to see what the healthy Montreal can do without that Etienne biting into his reps. I mean, he's the bell cow there. He's the one that's trusted. He's the one that they want to get the ball in there. And he's shown that he can be explosive. Again, I talked about the offensive line earlier. Running behind that O-line last year, a lot of people say Etienne had a little bit more burst that helped him hit that second level more. Montreal maybe just a step slower than that, but still just a really good all-around back. I mean, I'll take Montreal on my team any day of the week. Explosiveness, Trayon Webb is the one that's going to have to be that explosive back. Jaden Ball is a true freshman, like I said. I mean, these guys are going to have some pop. They're going to have some juice. My concern is their ability to pass protect. Again, Trayon Webb, he played a few snaps, a few games last year in that third back role. Jaden Ball is a true freshman. KD Daniels, another true freshman. So you have an inexperienced room, but a room that does have some talent.
In terms of the wide receiver position, probably the strength of the team, at least of the offense from what I can gather. We saw Ricky Pearsall go to the first round San Francisco 49ers. I don't know how he's doing. I have my another Gator bust tweet locked and loaded when he starts slipping. But obviously a heck of a college player, very impactful. His catch was against UAB. Who was that catch against? He had one of the best, Charlotte.
Yep.
One of the best catches I've ever seen. But he moves on. Eugene Wilson, one of the better receivers Miami's going to face this year.
Yep.
Let's start with him. What does he bring to the – you see some good receivers of Florida. What does he bring to the table?
I think he's as good as any of the guys in terms of what I've seen from him on the tape, on his recruiting tape, in his workout clips, everything. He's shown to be a fast twitch guy. He's got that next level speed. He's got hints of Percy, and I know that's, I'm throwing that name out there, not likely. There's hints of Percy there with some of the acceleration that I see, and then some of that fast twitch from Tony. I know who's another one of your favorite Gator busts, but who definitely gave the Canes fits in that game. But I see little bits of both those guys in his game. He starts on any team in America right now. That's the type of guy that you're looking at, a playmaker, someone that Miami's going to have to devote their full attention. He should be on the field at all times for Florida. They were looking to scheme the ball to him last season. At all times, they would go to him, they move the chains, and then they get away from him, and Florida would go down 2 touchdowns. So he's the playmaker. He's the A1 playmaker in that wide receiver room.
In terms of role, is it put him in the slot, throwing short passes? Is it like a Tony or Harvin role where he might get end arounds or handoffs or even like that? Or is it deep threat, like where he's literally stretching the defense and flying down the field? How do you see his role?
They'll play him everywhere. Like you said, they load him on a drag route going across where he can showcase that speed against man. He can get past DBs and safeties with that speed that he has out wide. And man, I'd love to see him on a jet sweep, some ending around stuff like that, because that's really where he features. So 3 for 3, he's someone that there's going to have to be a lot of eyes on all year.
In terms of the other receivers, I think a lot of people expected Badger from Arizona State to really quickly emerge. He got there late to quickly emerge as the number 2 guy, but it seems like there's a group of guys as opposed to him just separating from the pack.
Sure. Yeah, Florida fans entered this fall kind of panicking about the receiver room, just worried about where things were heading, who was going to step up there. And fall practice, I think there's been some confidence in some of the people who have stepped up. You mentioned Elijah Badger, one of the transfer from Arizona State, Chimray DK from Wisconsin. He played with Mertz. He's someone who's going to step in right away. They think that he might start in the slot position. So again, he's not very explosive, but possession receiver, someone that you can go to, trust. So another weapon for Mertz that he's familiar with. So you bring in these 2 transfers, but then you have all these other guys, Marcus Burke, Aiden Mizell, Marcus Burke is someone who's popped, physical receiver, 6'3", has made some big catches downfield, but has had questions, in the locker room and stuff like that have held him back. He's really had a good fall. Aiden Mizell, speedster out of Orlando, had to put on some weight. They're excited to see what he can do this year. Khalif Jackson, just another guy that he just makes catches, doesn't pop off the page. So the room started to come together. Talented but mysterious room. You'll notice that I didn't mention two names there. Andy Jean, he was, I think he's hurt right now. Billy's going to talk a little bit more about that. They're keeping an eye on his injury status. And then Tank Hawkins, who from recruiting, he's flashed already. He's in a sling right now. He's day to day, but D, I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to hear he's flashing a little bit and making plays up there in Gainesville.
Yeah, reminds me of Travis Benjamin, a guy that we're both familiar with. I recruited him for pretty hard. I guess with Badger, coming back to him, how do you see his role? Because I got to be honest, when I saw he was fourth or whatever he was, I was surprised because I thought this is the guy that's going to be getting the short passes, run after catch, and really be a problem for the game. Is this a rope-a-dope situation, you think, or what's the story there?
No, I think he just got to campus. I think that he needs reps in the system. A bunch of the guys that I mentioned, Marcus Burke, Jaquavion Frazier, they've had receivers who have been there 3 or 4 years in the system. So yes, Badger does come in there as the highly touted transfer, and they want to see stuff from him this year. I'm sure it's just a matter of him, or hopefully working his way up the depth chart across some guys who have been a little bit more established there in Gainesville so far. So hopefully he's a guy who does feature for UF. I'm not sure where he falls in the week 1 depth chart, but I think you're going to see a steady dose of Trey Wilson. I think DK will be out there as a starter. And then that third starter could be Jackson could be the third one. Again, just a steady guy who makes catches.
Yeah, we saw him in the spring. We talked about him, Pete Jackson. He was pretty impressive in the spring game. Well, one of my fears, Little Thunder out here.
Are we getting to tight ends now? Because that
yeah, seriously. No, that's like the cue. No. I want to stay on receivers because one of the things I'm worried about from a Miami standpoint is, if there's all these short passes, you have to bring the receiver down because you don't want them to move the chains, keep the ball away from this explosive offense. So in terms of run after the catch, we know Wilson brings that.
Yep.
Who else has ability to make someone miss a tackle, go get a first down that they probably should have been short of the sticks?
That's a good question when I'm looking at this depth chart and who I think could pop in that position. I mentioned Burke, a physical guy. He might not run away from you, but he could definitely get up and get through you. They might look to him to be someone who steps up. And again, he's been at UF on campus for a few years now, so he could be a true X factor. Aiden Mizell, he's as fast as anyone out there, right? You remember him from recruiting. They were thrilled to have him out there. He's got a year in there now. Hopefully his speed is something that they're going to be able to put in there. And again, I've talked about Tank Hawkins. So the room that was, a struggle point or that had a lot of Florida fans holding their breath, I mentioned some of the 2 transfers. You got this injection of youth that's coming all over the place. So we'll see which way it goes.
Tight end position. I was surprised to hear expectations. This might be a big, part of the Gator offense. Where do you see the tight end position shaking out for this team?
Where do I see the tight end position? Hopefully I see it looking better in a year or two when Amir Jackson is doing his thing and making some sky-high catches, a true freshman who I'm very high on and I'm sure has done well in practice. But no, I think the tight room, Zipper, his injury is taking a step back. He's
still in college.
He's one of those. I know you've got an 9th year tight end too, so maybe those guys are throwing it down week 1. Just the old tight ends for telling old tight end war stories. But no, you got Arliss Boardingham. He's a little bit more their prototype receiver. He's a catching tight end. He made some plays last year. I'm excited to see what he can do, is in that seam position for them. Hayden Hansen, just another guy who's more of a blocking tight end. But for me, the tight end room for Florida, it could use some talent, honestly, just the way that things have shaped out there over the years. So it's a position they're looking to recruit better. But again, I did mention Amir. I'm excited about him. He's really shown some great promise.
So going back to the 2019 game, obviously you mentioned Tony. He made a huge explosive play that really helped decide that game. We know Wilson can bring that. We've gone over the whole offense now. Who else on this team? By the way, new proud papa, Tenacious E. I can tell he's checking his phone to make sure the baby's alive.
I had to get a quick check.
The other explosive playmakers, if there's going to be a big play, a 30-plus yard play, who's making that play on this Gator team if it's not Wilson?
Yeah, I think it's Burke. I think it's Marcus Burke for me, just because he's shown it. He's shown it against SEC talent. Again, you're talking about very limited sample size, but at least he's gone up there and done it. Jackson has gone up there and done it. These are guys who have made some fairly impressive catches, just with zero consistency over the years. They're going to have every opportunity on Saturday to do so. I think just given the way the depth chart is shaken out. But again, Chimray, DK, they like him as a possession guy. Badger comes in there. It's interesting. We're all going to wait to see how that depth chart shakes out and who's going to be playing in those positions week 1.
Now to the topic that I know you're excited to talk about here, which is the offensive line.
Oh, dear.
So let's start on the left side, where I think we have more stability. Austin Barber, someone that Miami fans are familiar with because we recruited him hard. Yep. Thought he had a lot of upside, late developing kind of guy, late blooming guy that Florida got on late. Hard to get those guys when Florida gets on him late that are local, local-ish to that area, at least from Jacksonville. So I know he got hurt. He's back. What is his status health-wise, and what kind of player are we talking about here?
Yeah, he's back. Like you said, his health has been banged up. Even last year, he had a year where he kind of flashed, where he could be the best guy on that O-line, and the injuries have kind of held him back. So he is coming into this camp healthy. He's holding down that left tackle position, and honestly, he's one of 2 returning starters there. So even with the injury concerns there, he's someone that they're counting on to be the rock of that offensive line as a starting left tackle and as a redshirt junior.
And so is he back? Like, I mean, now he's playing, but is he like back? Like, is he?
We're certainly hoping so. I mean, that's the thing. He's had those injuries over the years, but they're counting on him to be back this year. He is fully entrenched as a starter.
And you've seen NFL players or just good players at Florida on the offensive line. I mean, how does he stack up? Assume he's healthy. Like, what kind of player are we talking about if he's healthy?
He could be just as good as any of those guys. Honestly, maybe doesn't have the prototype physical, height that you want out of that position, but his frame, his footwork, it could be as good as anyone there. Again, they're counting on him this year to be that dude, to be that guy on that O-line. So again, we've talked about the O-line just a little bit. They really, really needed a complete overhaul on that line, but he was one of the positions that they knew that they could count on to come back.
Left guard, help me with the pronunciation.
Najee.
A lot easier pronounced than it's spelled.
Najee Harris.
Like a knife, right?
Najee Harris.
Yeah, side of the case. So Najee Harris, I know Miami recruited him out of high school, I believe with the IMG.
Yep.
Someone undersized, but not tiny guard. He's someone you don't hear about, which is a good thing, I guess, on this Gator offensive line. What kind of player are we talking about there?
No, you're spot on. Plugged in there, left guards, entrenched as a starter, more of a run blocker, I think is what he came in from IMG from. But he's one of the names that you just hear in there, has been in there at left guard. So you want to hear that continuity. They've been looking to get guys to get that line, guys that they can rotate and who's going to play. But Najee has not been one of the ones who has been who's had too much competition at that left guard position. So between him, Barber on the left, and then Jake Slaughter, Sergeant Slaughter at center, the other returning starter. Florida is really hoping that left side and center of the line is the strong point of a line that, again, underwent a complete overhaul.
So Slaughter, I know when he plugged in, PFF darling, athletic guy, technician. I watched him a bit last year.
Yep.
How good is he now that he's had some time as the starter? He was kind of like
I just love the way that they've kind of brought him along, right? He played under Clay behind Kingsley, like you mentioned last year. And I just love that when you bring an O-lineman along like that, where you're sprinkling him behind an established guy. He got snaps. He played in big time games last year as a redshirt sophomore. So yeah, in terms of the guys up front, he's one of those that the arrow is pointing up as a redshirt junior, and we're excited to have him in there in the middle.
So now we get to the more questionable areas as far as who's going to be out there. Right guard, listed Damian George. I've been hearing a lot about Roderick Kearney, who was a pretty big recruit a couple years ago, potentially pushing him. What's going on at right guard?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people would love to see Rod Kearney at that right guard position starting. He's a guy who's been there for a bit. They're high on him as a redshirt freshman. But he's probably not as big as some of the other guys that are competing in that position. Damian George Jr., Cameron Waits, these are guys who are 6'6", 6'8", 345 in that position, and Kearney's not that prototype. So those two guys that I mentioned who are a little bigger, those are the guys who are running front right now at that right guard position. But Kearney has flashed. Billy singled him out at the press conference when asked about him yesterday. So they are high on him. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him become someone who probably steps more into that role as the season progresses, and he's definitely going to be a part of that rotation.
So with George, why has he not, totally closed the door here? What's going on with him at right guard?
I wish I could tell you. It's one of those positions, one of those guys who they've had kicked around a few places on the line. And right now he's selling at right guard and kind of getting snaps there. So there's some experience there, but he's just part of that. They brought in, again, a bunch of guys to compete with him. Devon Manuel transfers in from Arkansas. Brendan Crenshaw Dixon, right now the starting right tackle, he transfers in from San Diego State University. So there was an urgent need to overhaul that right side of the line specifically. And the Florida fans are really hoping it sticks together, because as that O-line goes, everything else flows through that. In the SEC with that schedule, there's not a lot of wiggle room to regress or to have another 39 sack season.
With Crenshaw Dixon, he's someone that's been mentioned prominently in practice reports up and down, making that transition to big time college football. Obviously, he's not an SEC player until now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the scouting report on him and his progress as he makes the adjustment?
Yeah, a little bit more of on the lighter side at right tackle, someone who, really got some praise and accolades for his work at San Diego State University. So I think we're all waiting to see how it transitions to the SEC and Florida, and giving the opportunity to anchor that right tackle spot. They're pushing him there. There's been guys who have been practicing there and as they go to kind of establish a rotation of guys. So it looks like he's going to be the week one guy, just a guy who's come and he's done well, I think, so far, but there's going to be an adjustment. I think like any of these guys, these guys haven't played together. Some of these guys haven't played in this conference. They're moving positions around. It's an O-line that, look, Florida fans have been talking about the offensive line for a decade. We have two coaches at the position now. Hopefully two heads are better than one. They could put together a rotation of 8 to 9, 10 guys. But geez, it's been a trouble point, and we're going to see week one against Miami's D-line. You guys have done a heck of a job in building your team out from the trenches.
I believe the old line coach is currently at Lowe's, right? He's a home inspector in case you need some.
I think I did see that photo. I laughed.
I just pulled up. I was trying to remember where it was, so I pulled up his LinkedIn.
You got the blue vest.
If you want to connect with John Hevesy,
I might have to give him a shout out if I need some work done.
So, listen, big picture. We got position by position or on the offensive line. What was this unit's problem last year?
Yeah, I think it was the O-line. I think that it really flowed from there. If you look at the rest of the team and kind of where they stacked up with the SEC, I think that there was talent at the receiver position, and with the Pearsalls of the world putting up the seasons they did in the system. I think that it really needs to come together this year. I don't need to tell you about hot seats and kind of where things are there, but I think that this offense, against this schedule and some of the guys they brought in, and kind of addressing some of the trouble points, will really be able to put together a season that they can, go and win in this schedule, put together some big games and win some games. You can't be losing against the Kentuckys. You can't be sweating against the Vandys. You can't be slipping against the Arkansas. Like, it's just not where you want to be as a program. And I think that they're obviously working to fix that. Specifically
on the offensive line, what went wrong with the offensive line?
I mean, what didn't go wrong? There's just injuries there. They couldn't replace Cyrus O'Torrance. He was the shining light there and he was the glue that was holding together these rickety guys together. So they just haven't been able to put it together there. I mean, D, I don't got to tell you, it starts with recruiting. I mean, do I have to address the elephant in the room? If you're not getting the blue chippers on campus at that position, you can develop, right? But then if you ain't developing, you're going to Lowe's, like, come on, you're just not going to be progressing there. So again, you've got two offensive line coaches. Hopefully the recruiting gets better there. You're bringing in more talent, but it starts there.
Was it just in terms of where they struggled? And you mentioned pretty much a lot of places, but were they worse on pass blocking, run blocking, physicality, communication? Where was the real problem area?
The real problem area was playing Georgia's defensive line. I mean, look, there's no weeks off in the SEC, but there's even less weeks off against these SEC D lines. Even, the teams of Tennessee and the Mizzous, those guys still have guys up front that if you don't show up or you're hurt or you don't have the talent or the chips at that position, you're gonna feel it. And I think that's where it went wrong last year for them.
when you play a great edge rusher, like let's say the kid from Tennessee, Pierce, or whoever it was on the schedule last year, was this a situation where they helped the tackles a lot? Was someone they trusted more, maybe left him on an island and helped the other one? Like, how did they deal with these kind of guys? I'm thinking from the perspective of Ruben Bain, someone like that.
No, they tried, the pass blocking or the running back helping out in pass blocking last year wasn't great either. At the end, that was not his strong suit. Florida fans on the way out, they tried to nip him at his heels about that, whatever salty things they were about. But there just wasn't a lot of good pass protection there last year. And again, the running game, they would have holes. Again, they would fall from behind. Etienne was able to find that second burst, and he was able to kind of create this run game behind the O-line. They just found themselves down bad last year against too many teams, and hopefully this year they can get in front of the chains, get in front of the scoreboard, and change some of that.
We're going to finish on the offense with Pete. Pull up the Hurricane team store, want to switch gears, let you collect your thoughts, build up your lives. I'm going to ask you to put your positive hat on and get some lives going. So work on that. I want to talk about the Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com. This is the former owner of all Canes. Harry Rothwell is now official with the Miami Hurricanes again, with the Miami Hurricane team store, Miami HTS. So you got official gear, official website. You got players all over the place, events located right there at the Thesis across the street from Unbelievable facility, everything brand new, beautiful. And they get the premium frontline stuff because of their official relationship. 10% off for students. You got the black jerseys. The black strategy jerseys are the hot seller right now. You can wear that to August 31st to the Gator game, where you can just wear it at home or whatever party or bar you go to. That is a beautiful looking jersey and is premium stuff at Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com. And you can support your athletic department while also buying the best, most official gear. So Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com, or the store in the Thesis. So I've given you some time to check on little Santiago Esteban, the most Latin name of all. That kid's going to get he's had no problem on his application.
Thank you. It's a nombre fuerte, strong name, Santi Esteban.
So you checked on him. You had some time to think of some optimism here, because what I want to get at here is I'm used to lying about terrible teams and situations that might not have hope. You've laid out a pretty bleak picture. I haven't even tried to help you. I mean, I've kept my Snyder marks to myself.
Absolutely.
How can this go right for the Gators? What's the best, whether it's developments from camp, from summer, just buzz? I know that people are pumping sunshine somewhere, because there's always somebody pumping sunshine. So what's the optimistic take on this Gator offense?
The optimistic take is that they're going to be better than they were last year, and it's not going to be close. And the fact that they're going to be better because some of the guys they brought in, the overhauled O-line, which I mentioned, the talent that they brought in the receiver room, some of the onus that they have, especially with Billy and Lagway coming in, I think that they're going to be better, that they just have to be with this schedule and what's going up against Billy. It just has to kind of line up that way. I think it starts week 1, right? You have to win that game if you're Florida, just the way the schedule lines up. I know that on your side, you guys are talking about this as one of the biggest games as well on your schedule and what it means to the program. I pause a little bit on what this game could mean to UF in the grand scheme of things, just because, again, that schedule, all of a sudden you got Georgia, you've got Texas, you've got all these teams. What does potentially losing to Miami by 2 in week 1 look like when all of a sudden you're in the depth of a November schedule?
Hopefully 3 for the bettors out there.
That 2.5 spread, I see it out there, and I think Vegas has it just right from what I'm looking at. I think that if it was at Hard Rock, the game would be 5 or 6, right? But we'll see.
Last thing before I let you go on the offense, and we were going to be doing defense, overall kind of intangible, special teams, other things regarding this game as we break it down from all sides. But before I let you go on the offense, you lose Ricky Pearsall to the first round.
Yep.
You lose at the end to Georgia Bulldogs. You bring back Wilson. Who needs to step up on this team to replace those 2 players who I would argue are 2 of your best 3 players on the entire football team?
Yeah, on offense, I mean, look, in terms of this year, you're hoping to see flash out of the aforementioned Burke or one of these young guys who really takes a step up in a, contract year, whatever you want to call it. He's one of those guys who really needs to put it together. I think that if anyone is going to do it, it could be him. So Marcus Burke is a guy who I've circled as a potential, breakout player for UF who could help the offense, like you said, take that next step. After him, I'm bullish on some of these freshmen. It looks like, again, Tank Hawkins, if he can bring something to that offense, right? Another wrinkle, different skill set. Maybe he's someone who shows that, can help this offense take another step forward by adding a new gear to it. So I'm trafficking in hope by mentioning these names, but I think that's where you're going to see it come from.
And any changes philosophy-wise, coaching staff-wise, every time there's a bad season, you're always hearing some nonsense about, either coaching shifts or just, philosophical shifts within that. What's the story there?
Steady as she goes. There was some pressure, I think, at the end of last year for Napier to relinquish play calling that I think mostly came from fans who just wanted him to free up and do a little less on game day. And he did not kowtow to those calls. So I think that's just steady as she goes. Let's see what this offense looks like with a super senior at quarterback, with an overhauled O-line, and with some guys at the skill position who will hopefully have breakouts to help Florida beat some of the teams on their schedule.
Pressure's on that matchup. That Florida offense, Miami's defense is going to be critical. We'll get into the breakdown of it, but wanted to really just dig deep into the Gator side of things. No one better than Tenacious E himself, the proud Papa, Eric Esteban. Eric, man, appreciate you, and we'll see you for the breakdown of the defense.
All righty. Thanks, D.
Yeah, this an insight to the Canes, and we ain't playing no games. Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we do. Home of the legends and 7th floor crew, down in Miami where hurricanes brew. You here for the rumors, we bring you the news, cause it's all about the you, and nobody do it like CanesInSight. Nobody do it like CanesInSight. Nobody do it like CanesInSight.